Well, alarming new statistics today on schooling. Dropout rates have risen to the highest level in almost 2 decades. Keeping kids interested and engaged is a real problem. A secondary school in London is making international headlines for its bold new policy aimed at re-engaging children and getting them off their phones. The plan, a 12-hour school day with an absolute phone ban, with activities, one-on-one tutoring and group dinner at the end of the day.
We've asked you at home what you think of the plan. Colleen said, "We aren't expected to do a 12-hour day at work, so why should they do one at school?" While Sharon said, "It may reduce youth crime." To discuss, let's bring in education researcher and author Kevin Donnelly and Director of Global Impact at digital safety company Korea. Is that right? Yasmin. Thank you, Yasmin London. It was a bit of a mouthful, my apologies. Kevin, let's start with you. This plan is pretty wild. What do you think of it?
Well, I've got a couple of thoughts. I mean, one is parents really should be responsible for their children. And in terms of saying no to mobile phones or no to laptops, computers at night time in the bedroom, parents should be at home reading to their children, getting them involved in sport, cultural activities. So when you've got a school having to take the parent's place, I'm a bit worried about that. But I understand, and I'd make it voluntary, in fact, if the headmaster wants to have a school day that goes that long, and if he breaks it up in terms of formal lessons, group lessons, I've read the material, they do a lot of creative work, a lot of sport after school. I could understand why he'd do it, but certainly I'd argue, first of all, parents are responsible for their children.
And to be fair, I mean, a lot of parents have so much on their plates anyway, and all those balances need to be worked out in their individual families. But the notion of kids going for that long and engaging kids for that long, giving them a meal, making them feel part of the environment, the school environment, I kind of like the idea. What's the biggest negative for the kids here, do you think?
Well, I think not being at home, not being outside. You know, when I grew up, we used to love riding our bikes after school. We didn't go straight home. We'd go home for dinner, but we'd be riding our bikes. We'd swim in the local creek. I mean, kids need to be free range. Kids need to be free range. They need to have that time together to build up their confidence, to be able to take a risk. You know, we used to climb trees, and I only fell out once to realise that I had to be more careful. So I'm a bit worried about schools, as I say, taking over. But I do believe, as happened in Australia, nearly every state now is banning mobile phones from the classroom, from the school day. And I think that's a great move forward. It's a pity we didn't do it 10 years ago.
Yeah, that to me seems like a no-brainer. I mean, what do you need a mobile phone for in class anyway? And ultimately, Yasmin, you know, school is all about a kid's education. They should be receiving the best education. Having access to digital, technology and screen time, surely that has a detrimental impact to their education.
Look, it can. It depends on the policy that the school is implementing. And I think, to have a bit of an unpopular opinion here, I don't believe bans work. There's no longitudinal evidence to show that in that long term it actually is effective. And we're looking at bans here with a really simplistic view. Mobile phones can be educational tools where, assuming that kids are only using them to jump on social media to access inappropriate content, but they can actually be so much more than that. So I think we've got to stop applying this simplistic solution, these blanket bans, to a problem that needs, a futuristic solution.
Look, every generation has an issue with what's coming in the future and how it's different to how they grew up. Maybe the answer is in banning individual programs, platforms like social media. Would that play a significant role, do you think? I mean, because I can't see any benefit to a kid under 15 or 16 not having access to social media.
Look, delaying is the way. So I believe this school is focusing on year 7 and 8 students, for example. And I think what we've got to think about is balance. Yes, there should be restrictions on social media. Yes, there are absolutely problems that occur. But we've got to consider the capacity building in our young people. We can't get to year 12 and hand them a mobile phone and say, good luck to you. We haven't taught them the skills.
Yeah,
so
training.
it's a much harder...
That being said, kids know what to do when they're 3 now.
Exactly. They know how to swipe when they're 12
Yeah.
months old. You
Yeah.
know, they're handed devices, you know, when they're really little. So, you know, I agree, you know, parents are at the front line here. They're our children's first and most influential role models. So it has to be a balanced approach, but we can't have this blanket approach where we just say, no, we've got to think about how do we build capacity. And the really big thing with this, particularly with teenagers, is when it comes to bans, like anything, when you're told you're not able to do something, you
want
find a way around it. And so what we see with kids is they go underground. If something bad happens, they don't seek help because they think they'll get in trouble.
It's a
Yeah,
really good
it's
debate.
true.
Thank you for joining it, and let us know your thoughts at home. Lots of feedback coming in. I say send them to school for 12 hours, and then when they finish year 12, send them to the army for a year. Hey?
Just get rid of them altogether,
Toughen
eh?
them up.
Kids, what do you think about that? Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and
What's my name again?
Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports, and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
that never happens.
always happens.
What's she talking about?